Decadence, Resentiment, the Ubermensch. These were the topics developed by philosopher Nietzsche, but Scourge, the embodiment of cringe, accidentally added an extra ingredient, degeneracy, and thus this dumbass video was born. A long-time cultured manga I've enjoyed is Issei Tenshi Love Mary, a manga by one of my favorite doujin artists, Satou Kuuki. In it, the Archangels of Love, a group of magical girls, are one by one corrupted in the most degenerate way possible by the demonic god Elysium and his daughter Ravana. This manga is enjoyable not only for Satou Kuuki's distinct art style and premise, but also for the storytelling and, honestly, deeper themes that its 200 plus pages tell us. There are deep philosophical principles at work throughout the piece, and today, we'll be focusing on how it connects with the principles discussed in the works of Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche and his fabulous mustache. Nietzsche was a German philosopher who lived from 1844 to 1900 and is well known for his influence upon Western philosophy. His most famous work is probably the concept of the Ubermensch, an idealized individual who creates their own values and lives authentically, overcoming and sometimes even spiting societal norms and moralities. It was created as an answer to the concept of nihilism and people questioning existential meaning. His ideas frequently prompt debates in areas regarding societal power dynamics, the meaning of life, ethics, and has a significant influence on rejecting conformity. It is important to note that, despite it being antithetical to their nationalist and anti-Semitic basis, some of his works were misappropriated and co-opted to seemingly support of World War II. But taken as intended and free from that group's despicable influence, Nietzsche can teach us a lot about confronting conformity, confronting nihilism, and emphasizing how we can grow in life through creativity and personal growth. Nietzsche's works are reflected in Satou Kuuki's Issei Tenshi Love Mary in the embodiment of Nietzsche's concepts of decadence, resentiment, and of course, the Ubermensch. In his 1888 piece, The Twilight of the Idols, Nietzsche discusses the concept of decadence, which he essentially defines as the decay of societal and individual vitality due to the adherence of what he calls life-denying values. Life-denying values are systems, typically moral, societal, or philosophical, which suppress, reject, and weaken the natural instincts and vitality essential for a happy and healthy life. These values can be things like prioritizing escapism from the realities of life, viewing struggles and chaos as inherently bad, and an emphasis on the devaluation of the body, human instincts, and individuality in favor of conforming to external forces. Essentially, Nietzsche argues that the rejection of one's humanity and their human limits in pursuit of an ideal will degrade themselves emotionally and internally until they collapse. Decadence is exemplified in Love Mary by stemming from the very concept of a magical girl, as displaying in many other magical girl media, most notably Madoka Magica. The choice to become a magical girl is a form of life-denying value. Magical girls must put their lives on hold, personal safety at risk, and reject all natural instincts for the safety and self-preservation in the name of upholding justice and defeating evil. While these are noble causes, they fundamentally erode away at a magical girl's normal life, and emphasize that they internalize all natural instinct in order to do the best battle they can against evil. All these coalesce into the results of the life-denying values Nietzsche describes, breeding an internal neglect, pain, and anger, which is eventually brought out of the Archangels of Love in this manga when they are subjected to intense carnal pleasure and debauchery. As Nietzsche says in The Twilight of Idols, what destroys a man more quickly than to work, think, and feel without inner necessity, without a deep personal choice, without pleasure, as a mere automaton of duty? The Archangels of Love, and to be honest, all magical girls in general, are embodiments of automatons of duty, beings who have imposed ideals upon themselves and suffer from a grand delusionment brought upon by their divine duty. Knowing this, it's no wonder they all fall so quickly to the corruption of Lord Elysium. He brings to them the pleasure and relief from moral duty that they have been suffering from the weight of. When individuals are forced to deny their instincts, their health, their life, their safety in service of an unattainable ideal, it is no wonder that they are so susceptible to falling to the pleasures of the flesh when finally offered relief from their service. Furthermore, the corruption of Love Mary Lapis in particular is an excellent example of Nietzsche's concept of resentiment. In his 1887 work on the genealogy of morality, Nietzsche argues that resentiment is a driving force for what he calls a slave morality, where the weak reframe and invert their values and morality. It stems from when someone is driven to a state of resentment and envy, unable to express their power or achieve their desires, and rather than confronting their frustration, they internalize and transform their weakness into something which vilifies the traits that they envy. In Love Mary, Lapis is tortured, physically altered, and even eventually mentally altered in order to become Archdemoness Lapis. While yes, there was a literal brainwashing involved, it can be argued that said brainwashing was only successful due to the resentiment which Lapis developed as a result of long-term stagnation of success as a magical girl. This internalized damage is acted upon by the Archdemonesses Mary and Ravana, who play on Lapis's gender dysphoria, seeming uselessness without his/her allies, and their emotional degradation from seeing the magical ideals be sullied by Mary's corruption. Finally, there's the concept of the Ubermensch, Nietzsche's most famous work, representative of an ideal figure who transcends human limitations and creates new values in response to nihilism. The Ubermensch is created when traditional sources of meaning, like religion or absolute morality, are no longer viable, and one develops their own values and meaning in life. Interestingly, depending on your interpretation, Love Mary can either embody the creation of the Ubermensch or embodies the various archangels of love's failure to achieve becoming one. Nietzsche developed the Ubermensch in response to an atheist idea of the death of God, that is to say, the removal of traditional sources of meaning. While the archangels of love undergo corruption, one could argue that they are becoming Ubermensch, transcending their previous source of meaning, righteous justice, in favor of a more selfish and carnal goal. However, it can also be argued that they have failed in becoming Ubermensch. They are essentially adopting the aforementioned slave morality in regard to serving under Lord Elysium, and the level of impact the corruption has on their minds could fully undercut much of the philosophical development. In the acceptance of a devil, does one really overcome the despair necessary to create meaning and become Ubermensch? Or are they simply giving in to decadence and a new moral and social order? These concepts are the ultimate quandary of the philosophy of Love Mary, and leaves things open-ended and arguable, as well as making it fun. If you have any ideas regarding this, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, remember to lewd the like button, smash the subscribe button. I hope you learned something, accept your cringe, and stay pogers. Bye bye.